Alrighty, folks. Thank you for listening to those messages. We're in 2002, where we're seeing. 2002 is a weird year. It's a weird year for some stuff. You're getting big time sequels such as Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Star Wars Attack of the Clones. We're getting new takes on animation with Lilo and Stitch, Ice Age, and then we're getting the transition of the superhero movie with Sam Raimi's Spider Man. But you're getting a lot of fun, weird stuff, which includes one of Dylan's secret favorites, like Mike, with Lil Bow Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And Master of Disguise, another one of Dylan's
Oh yeah.
favorites that is universally panned as a
Hey,
horrible film.
that's a banner year.
Also, in this, you have the end of the Hannibal Lecter kind of run with Anthony Hopkins and Red Dragon. The Ring is taking over theaters as a horror film. You're getting Minority Report with Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg, and Catch Me If You Can is also a wildly good film in this one. And then the shock hit of that year was My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which is actually a pretty goddamn good film. But
It's all right. Yeah.
it was the shocking hit of the year where it just kind of took over for a little
Yep.
bit.
Um. So a couple things about the ceremony. A couple fun things. So I recommend everyone go watch this. It's amazing to watch. Michael Moore gave a speech when he won Best Documentary, and he was just booed like fucking crazy because he gave all this
Really?
huge this huge speech about how George W. Bush is, you know, this unjust war and all that. It's hilarious. Go watch it. It's fantastic. Um,
Here's the
because
thing. I
he won for
appreciate.
bowling for Columbine, and
Yeah.
I actually think in the long run he proved to be correct.
Right. Like the
But
thing is
the
I
speech
don't
is so
disagree
funny.
with him. But it's one of those, I get it, it's a documentarian. Documentarians are a different breed than actors or actresses and directors
Especially
of,
Michael Moore.
and Michael Moore is a unique breed all by himself. Maybe as Bowling for Columbine, which is already a tough subject. Maybe right as we're transitioning, in the heat of, we've just dealt with 9/11 within a year ish time.
Hmm.
Maybe not the best time to be like George W. Bush sucks. It's like,
Yeah,
even if you think that, and you are completely entitled to that opinion, and I don't erringly think you're wrong to have that opinion, right? Maybe not the best time to do it is the Oscars. The
yeah.
Oscars maybe not be the platform for that.
It's fun to watch though. Recommended viewing. Uh, and then you also have Eminem winning Best Song, which was a huge upset over Bono and the U2 boys because they had a song for Gangs of New York. And then apparently, Best Actor was one of the biggest upsets in Oscars history in terms of like the bookies and the odds
Ah,
because it was like a huge it was a pretty much a two-horse race between Daniel Day-Lewis for Gangs of New York and Jack Nicholson for About Schmidt,
yeah.
and then ended up being Adrian Brody.
Okay then.
Oh, and then one more tidbit that I thought was really cool. The producer of Chicago tried for over 3 decades to get the film adaptation of it made.
Wow. Okay.
I was like, that's dedication right there.
Yeah. There's a lot of stories like that of big time productions taking forever. Right now, people like to talk about how Ryan Reynolds campaigned for like 10 years to get Deadpool made. That's
Mm-hmm.
nothing compared to Chicago. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Same thing, like, I
and
know Michael Uslan, who's always named as a producer on Batman. It took him 10 years to get Batman made for the first time, so it's like, that's
that's
not the
crazy
same as
though.
Chicago to keep that. Chicago's a different product. Like, at least superheroes, you're kind of like, it's a franchise, and You
But it's so
know,
weird because it's a Bob Fosse musical adaptation.
yeah,
So you would think like that name alone, you would think, yeah, we'll take a risk on it.
yeah, and
Like
no one
30
wants to do
years,
it.
that's a long
It's
time.
fucking wild. That's just wild. I, so let's get back to just sew up. Wrong year, right win. Spirited Away does win in
Oh,
2002.
yep.
Um, ironically enough, if they give it in the right year, which I get by their technicalities, they did the correct thing by their bylaws and standards. If Spirited
Mm-hmm.
Away wins in 2001, what do you put in? What do you put in animated film instead of Spirited
Uh,
Away?
let's see. Hey.
I would go Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. It's actually a pretty damn good movie.
Um, I haven't seen that in such a long time, so I'd probably, from the top of my head, from what I remember, I'd probably go Lilo Stitch. Um,
They're both.
but that's
I,
just from what I remember of the nominees.
yeah, I love Lilo and Stitch as well. If I remember just straight quality, I think Spirit has.
Okay.
It's also not fair because Lilo and Stitch, I watched for the first time sit down in almost 20 years last week because
Okay.
my wife and a friend of ours were talking and they're like, they just got talking about Lilo and Stitch. They're like, let's just watch Lilo and Stitch. I was like, okay, I guess we're watching Lilo and Stitch right now. But I hadn't
Talk
watched
about
Lilo
a
and Stitch.
movie that does not need a remake.
Lilo and Stitch is so unique and so great, and they're making the live action one, and I'm like, you got to capture magic. It's kind of like it's such a weird, unique thing of its time. And
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember, I was obsessed with Lilo and Stitch. I loved Lilo and Stitch,
I remember.
and it's such a unique thing for the time frame that it's like, gotta Disney taking some chances with some of these live action fucking remakes right now.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's a good animated film one. Cinematography, I don't think Two Towers deserves as much recognition for overall production and acting and directing and everything. However, I do believe the cinematography in Helm's Deep alone makes me think Two Towers deserves that. Who wins cinematography?
Road to Perdition.
All due respect to Road to Perdition because I haven't seen enough of it to really judge it as much. I just think that the cinematography in Helm's Deep really takes that cinematography for me to a
Yeah.
place
Well,
that's so special.
Two Towers isn't even nominated.
Yeah, that's where I was like, to not even get a nomination for some of the work is
Yeah.
ridiculous, and I would still put it in a win. Costume design, same deal. Here is where I will get oddly, spirited for something. Both Two Towers and Attack of the Clones aren't put in costume design. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing?
Okay. Yeah.
Like, those are just. I look at some of the. Again, I know The Pianist, but I haven't watched it all the way through. I don't know the hours. I know the visual look of Frida. I obviously know the visual look of Gangs of New York. It's almost impossible to not know the visual look of Gangs of New York. However, it's a
Hmm.
movie I've never been really interested in watching, so I never do. Um,
Yeah.
and Chicago, I have watched. I can understand the or I can understand the win for Chicago, but for Attack of the Clones, the costuming just on Padme alone, to me, is like, god damn, it's worthwhile. Plus the other stuff that they're doing with a lot of the different costume designs, I'm like, come on. And then Two Towers, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Look at the costume work here. What are we doing?
I can understand the Two Towers one. I don't know what I would take out to put it in there because I actually do like all the nominees for once.
Wow.
Um, I guess if I had to take one out, I would put it in place of the hours. But I don't have a problem with any of the nominees.
Okay, and then to revisit original song, I don't care if they thought it was an upset at the time. It's only because it was a rap song why it was an upset. That is the most fucking obvious Oscar win in history in my mind. Is "Lose Yourself"
Yeah.
for 8 Mile. "Lose Yourself" for 8 Mile is an obvious number one seed of a tournament of original songs in Oscar history.
Well,
It's
you
like an
just have
obvious
to-
number one seed.
Yeah, you just have to go back like 20, listen to the past 20 years of Oscar winners, and then listen to "Lose Yourself," and then
So
you'll
different.
understand why it was such a big change.
Yes, it's incredibly different, especially at the time where we're going through that whole dumb rap is bad, rap is evil bullshit. And then you hit 8 Mile, and I don't care who you are. If you don't like "Lose Yourself," that's a you problem. That ain't that's not a song's problem. That's a you problem. I literally in my notes I have original song, fucking obvious, like that it should have won. So to hear that they thought it was an upset, I'm like, that's only because of the fuddy duddies.
No, yeah, I when I read that, I was like, I mean, I understand it, but it is a surprise to me.
So that to me, that's the most obvious fucking thing ever. Like, come on.
Yeah.
He's weak. Arms are heavy.
I have no big misses in the technical categories.
Okay.
And actually, I'll read out the big six. So director, you got Roman Polanski, the pianist, who we're going to talk about in 1 second.
Wildly controversial.
Actor, Adrian Brody. Actress, or Adrian Brody for the pianist. Actress, Nicole Kidman for The Hours. Supporting actor, Chris Cooper for adaptation. Supporting actress, Catherine Zeta-Jones for Chicago. And I have 0 changes. I think they did a good job there.
I had 2 questions. I would have liked to see a nom for Leonardo DiCaprio for Catch Me If You Can.
Sure.
I think he's phenomenal in that film. And I don't know if he qualifies as a supporting actor, but I would also like to see Tom Hanks in that. Christopher Walken got a nom for supporting actor for Catch Me If You Can. I don't know if Tom Hanks qualifies as a supporting actor, but he's damn good in it.
I think you could swing it as a supporting actor because there's been a lot worse cases where things have pulled off supporting actor parts where they definitely weren't. So like you can get away with it.
So those are the only 2 that I wasn't gonna go so far without watching some of the performances to say change it based on those 2.
Yeah.
But for neither of them to get recognized, and Catch Me If You Can wasn't recognized all that much in this ceremony. I was kind of like,
well, that's kind of one of Spielberg's like forgotten movies, really.
Which is so strange because it's such a favorite in a subsection of people our age.
Yeah.
Like our age, that's kind of one of their favorite Spielberg movies is Catch Me If You Can.
Mm-hmm. Well, this whole period of movies is kind of forgotten, like Minority Report, The Terminal, Road to Perdition, AI, Catch Me If You Can.
Those are all movies that I forget half the time are Spielberg movies outside of Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman plays Virginia Woolf. She's really good in the movie. It's like the only thing that I don't like about that movie is she wears like this really distracting fake nose.
Okay.
But she's really good in it. It's just Virginia Woolf battling with depression, really.
Nice.
And then Adrian Brody was the youngest, still is the best, youngest best actor winner. Okay. 29 years old, I'm pretty sure. So, younger than I am now.
Yeah.
So, Roman Polanski. This is a doozy.
Would you like to explain the story of Roman Polanski to people for those who don't know? Because it's kind of hidden because it's so long ago as to why Polanski is so controversial.
Okay. So I'm going to read this word for word of what I wrote down just so I'm not getting in any. So I'm not putting anything out there that wasn't already in the internet.
Yes.
Okay. So it's going to go from sad and disturbing to sad and disturbing in a totally different way.
Yep.
Okay. So Roman Polanski's Polish Jewish parents moved the family from his birthplace in Paris back to Krakow?
Yeah, Krakow.
Krakow in 1937. 2 years later, the invasion of Poland by Nazi Germany started World War II, and the family found themselves trapped in the Krakow ghetto. Polanski's father was transferred, along with thousands of other Jews, to Mauthausen in Austria. His mother, who was 4 months pregnant at the time, was taken to Auschwitz and killed in the gas chambers soon after she arrived.
Oh God.
So already, I mean, that's like
Tragedy.
that's about as tragic a past as you're ever going to find.
Yes.
So it's like he has a lot of leeway as a person. But when you hear the rest of his life, then you go, okay.
Yep.
Okay. So in 1977, Polanski was arrested for drugging and raping a 13-year-old girl. He pled guilty to the lesser charge of unlawful sex with a minor in exchange for a probation-only sentence. The night before sentencing in 1978, he learned that the judge would likely reject the offered plea bargain, so he fled the U.S. to Europe, where he continued his career. He remains a fugitive from the U.S. justice system. Further allegations of abuse have been made by other women since then.
Yep.
So, definitely a problematic figure. I mean, there's no doubt he's a tremendous filmmaker, but that's just as bad as Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah. No, it's the. The worst part is I did a small like rabbit hole dive on Roman Polanski when I was going through some film history a couple months ago, and I was like, just let me understand this a little bit more. I knew you always get the he had a sexual assault thing. That's what you get. You don't necessarily get the no, he drugged and raped a teenager, a young teenager. That's fucked. You always hear it as like, oh no, it's kind of like it's this weird old Hollywood spin on it half the time, where some people tell the tale as though it's like a consensual relationship with a really old teen. It's like, no, that's not what fucking happened.
No.
And
when you hear it was some kind of sexual assault thing, that has a very wide area that it could be, you know?
Rape is a whole different level, especially when you're drugging a person and it's an underage. That's just an ick fact. That is every red flag fucking possible is in that goddamn story. And the fact that it's one of those ick factor things where you wish organizations like the Oscars would be like, we're not even going to consider this. It might be great.
Unfortunately, because
and there's some people still in those circles that have a soft spot for him, as if he's like this persecuted figure that got chased out of the country.
It's the classic thing of, does he deserve recognition as an artist? Because he did not make this movie alone. Thousands and thousands of people work on a movie. Right. Do they not deserve recognition for their craft?
Right.
Like, does Adrian Brody not deserve to win for The Pianist because he was directed by Roman Polanski?
Yeah.
Like, it's a tough argument.
Yeah. The easiest way to take that argument out of play is don't work with Roman Polanski. And that's the worst part and also it's the classic thing of, I always boil that kind of stuff down to this, is when we get into subjects like that, when society gets into these very tough subjects in which, do people that have that kind of mar of character and just like huge red flag on their entire life, when something's outside of your control, can you really do anything about it? You know, the
Hmm.
most I can say is I'm never gonna go watch a Roman Polanski film. Like, I just no, I'm not even gonna. Like, even to watch Brody's performance, it's nothing against Adrian Brody. I know he's a very good actor, and I've
He's
seen,
great in that movie. Like he deserves his win.
and I'm not taking his performance away. It's just something me personally. I'm like, how do I combat it? I will just never acknowledge Roman Polanski's work and just say he's a piece of shit human being. And as tragic as your life starts, that doesn't give the excuse to make other people's lives a tragedy either. And that's so sad. But yeah, it's kind of, I always look at it like I get into conversations like this based on football a lot. It's like I can't believe people would even want to be teammates with that guy. It's like
Yeah.
you're like, okay, someone, let's just pick a team. Let's pick, fuck it, the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? Let's just say some star player has some huge horrible accusations, but there's not enough to really put him away. But it's clear, or I'll use a perfect example right now: Cleveland Browns, Sean Watson,
Hmm.
currently again being accused of more sexual misconduct and assault. Right? Can I go fault the other team members of the Cleveland Browns when there's only 32 teams to employ you? This is your best opportunity. You have no control over who they hire as their quarterback. You have no
Yeah.
control over that. Is it their fault? Is it your fault that they hired that guy? No, it's not. But at the same time, there is that other side. It's like, well, you could make the choice to try to go elsewhere and just say no. And it's that weird, what do you do factor. And yeah, can you begrudge half the people that worked? Like, can you begrudge the gaffer on this fucking movie or the guy holding a
Yeah.
goddamn boom mic? You know,
And yeah,
no.
I'll just say it right now. This is going to be controversial too. The Pianist is the movie I would put as Best Picture,
Wow.
and that's not with saying putting Roman Polanski on a pedestal at all. It's saying that I think the story they tell is a story that needs to be told, like because it's a biography at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's a biopic. I can't remember the guy's name. I would butcher it anyways. Um, but like it's a story that deserves to be told. So why should that story be punished because someone else is an asshole?
Right. It's just that weird quandary that you have to figure out your own. Everyone kind of has to figure out their own boundary with it and just
It's
follow
very
their boundary.
complicated. It should, because you could almost argue that the academy should almost have a legal almost department where they can kind of ban people from being nominated.
Right.
But then that could also turn into like a Red Scare kind of thing, like they were doing in the 50s,
Right.
where people are just getting blacklisted
Yeah.
for political reasons. So yeah, it's a complicated situation, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's just sad in so
I
many
think it would
ways.
it would
Just
definitely
sad.
come in handy at times, that's for sure.
It's one of those that in the circumstances where everyone could agree on something like this, where
Yeah,
99% of people would say, "Oh wait, that guy drugged and raped a teenager. Yeah, fuck that. We're never going to recognize that guy.
yeah.
He should be in prison." You're like, "Yeah,
Because then you can also strip away his win. You can also, if he was a producer, which I don't know if he was, he would also have his Oscar stripped away as Best Picture winner,
yeah,
his personal one, not
yeah,
the movies, but
right."
yeah. So yeah, it's a complicated situation.
Yeah, the easiest way to
Jumping
say it
into
is Roman Polanski's a piece of shit, and that's that.
yeah, jumping into the actual nominees, Chicago wins Best Picture. Gangs in New York was a heavy favorite. The Hours, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and The Pianist.
I found it so interesting that Two Towers got a nom here, and yet all the other stuff that it
Really?
has, yeah, because I just thought if you're not going to give it to Fellowship, which is in my opinion, far and away better than Two Towers.
Well, it got a nomination for Best Picture.
It did,
Fellowship.
but at least Fellowship was recognized in a lot of other different categories. The categories that I believe
Sure.
Two Towers should be recognized in.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it feels almost Chocolat-esque, where it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, it's a great movie. Throw it in there.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like to me.
There was also, I think there was a kind of thing like, oh, we know this third one's coming out, so we'll just wait and see if it's as good as we think it's going to be. We'll just hand them all the Oscars.
Franchises definitely, when they're good, get handed a lot in their second and third goes when they probably earned them in the first go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, that's what earns them money. A lot of franchises fail after the first movie, but the first movie was so good, they carry that momentum to
Yeah.
2, 3, 4. Transformers, perfect example.
True.
Transformers 1 is a fun movie. It's a good movie. It's enjoyable. Transformers 2 hurts people's feelings because it's that bad. You know?
Yeah.
That's how franchises work in both good ways and bad. I don't have any qualms about those nominees. I don't know enough about half of them. Personally, I'd still give it to Two Towers in terms of just what I like, but I can't say it's the best movie of the time. I could see Catch Me If You Can getting a nom. I just think that's such a good movie that's under-recognized.
Sure. I like I said, I would have The Pianist win, and then I also took out The Hours and put in Spirited Away.
That's the other thing is Spirited Away is another one of those first. In your opinion, because you're such a big Beauty and the Beast fan, is Spirited Away better than Beauty and the Beast?
Not to me personally, but to most people, yes.
And then that kind of speaks to, shouldn't it be in the actual best category as well, not just best animated?
Yeah.
Spirited Away feels like another one of those entries in the animation does not get the credit it deserves, but its quality is gonna push people to finally get to the point where it doesn't matter if it's animated, it matters if it's a fucking movie, and it needs to be recognized for its quality.
We're still not at that point.
Yeah.
So
we're getting closer, but we're not at that point. Didn't Toy Story 3 get a nom? What was the animated film that finally got a big, like, Toy Story 3 absolutely deserves a nomination later for Best Picture.
Up got one, then the year after Toy Story as well.
Yeah, so I mean, we're in a good place for that one. Anything else Oscar-wise in 2002 for you?
Nope. That was it.
What's your favorite movie of 2002?
Probably Two Towers. Probably.
Fair.
I mean, I'd have to. Yeah. It'd be hard to not say that.
I have kind of a honorable mentions based on mood kind of category here. Two Towers is obviously in that mix. I think if you look at just what I want to watch, Catch Me If You Can probably is my favorite movie of 2002. Two Towers would be very close. And then two movies that I love that are mood-based. 28 Days Later. I really enjoyed that movie. And then a movie that it's not good at all. I want to make that very clear. This is when I just want to pick me up or just want something dumb entertainment. I gotta give some love to Jackass the movie. It just makes me laugh. It's of the time period.
It's fun.
And it's just a fun movie. So I gotta say one of my favorites of 2002 is Jackass the movie. Now, from Jackass the movie, we'll take you to a serious, super serious message. And we'll come back for 2003.